Hello, good evening. My name is Sandra Esenamafenu and I'm here to serve you the latest from the world of business. Our first story: after its adoption by the African Union 2 years ago, 22 countries on the continent are expected to ratify the Continental Free Trade Agreement before it can be fully implemented. As the March deadline approaches for the full implementation, there are fears that some African countries may not be able to adopt the agreement. Ebenezer Sabote takes a look at some African countries and their chances of meeting this deadline.
The African Continental Free Trade Agreement has already been ratified by 17 countries on the continent, with 5 more to ratify before its full implementation. The inability of the first and the second largest economies on the continent, Nigeria and South Africa, to ratify the deal has been a major challenge by the African Union. The agreement seeks to promote trade by opening up the markets of various countries to be able to trade duty-free and quota-free. It, however, may be facing another setback, according to some industry analysts, due to the fact that there are a number of national elections to be held by some member nations before the deadline. David Ofosu-Dorte is a partner at AB and David.
The deadline is still March. For us to get the 22, then we are likely to miss it. That's why I was talking from that perspective. As at now, 15 have signed, and the reason is with the number of elections that we have by March up to May, many of those who have not signed want to sign it only after the election. If we miss the deadline, it's not the end of the world.
In Ghana, many of the local industries and traders have expressed their readiness to compete with goods coming from other member nations, though there are concerns raised by some business unions that the country could be used as a dumping ground. Chief Executive of Gihog Distilleries, Maxwell Kofi Juma, tells Joy Business he's taking advantage of the deal to enter other markets with their products.
Now with a new free trade in Africa, we're going to every African country. But we are targeting Europe. In fact, this month, they are going. We tell them our drinks are superior. Simplicity.
Meanwhile, Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry, Carlos Ahenkra, has advised manufacturing firms to pay attention to packaging of their products to serve as an added advantage.
We expect the Ghanaian manufacturers to be competitive and be ready for this kind of competition, because you would sit here, you would think that you are able to manufacture, let's say, a watch, a timepiece, or you're able to manufacture some shoes. But there's a company in Egypt who is doing it with a proper quality, better quality. They can bring it here without any duty, and it will challenge and compete with your kind of shoes that you are manufacturing here. So I would take advantage of this opportunity also to let our manufacturers understand that packaging or proper production to give you the necessary visibility and penetration is also very important.
In a recent tweet after Senegal's parliament ratified the deal, Trade and Industry Commissioner of the African Union, Ambassador Albert Muchanga, expressed optimism that the 5 remaining countries will sign the deal before the next African Union summit.
All right, so news just is that tomorrow, Miracle is expected to take over ECG, but we understand that has been postponed. And my colleague, George Wiafe, is here to give us details. Thanks so much for your time, George. Right. What do we know about this postponement?
So what we know was that there was some transfer of assets that were ongoing and all the rest. But what we understand right now is that those things have not been completed. So that official assumption of these assets by this new consortium of companies that was supposed to happen from Friday would not happen again. Just a while ago, MIDA also issued a statement to confirm that it's true and that these transfer of assets are ongoing, and they are hopeful that that should happen in the next few weeks.
So do we know when the takeover is going to take effect?
Well, from what MIDA is saying, it looks like it will take a while longer. And also, let me explain to you that utility tariffs were expected to be reviewed from Friday, February 1. This was one of the main reasons why the tariff adjustment is not going to come on from tomorrow, being February 1, because the new owners came up with a concern that because they have not been able to transfer those assets, it will be difficult to take that legal control of ECG for them to implement these new tariffs. And that is why it's being pushed possibly to next week. So there are some issues with capital, transfer of assets and others. And that is why the new owners want to take their time and ensure that the right things are done, because this has legal implications, and it has to be done well.
Talk about legal implications. We're told that the takeover, there's not supposed to be any delays, and so with this postponement, is it going to affect the deal because Miracle was not supposed to pay the agreement that they have with ECG?
Again, we're also trying to get more details and clarification on that one, because per the arrangement, February 1, these were new owners that they should take over.
Right.
So if it's delaying, how will be the impact, even in assessing those funds from the Millennium Challenge Compact and helping to expand the company as well? There'll be some problems as well. So we're still getting clarity. But again, quick one, Sandra. Utility tariffs were supposed to be viewed on Friday, February 1.
Yeah.
It is not coming on. It's going to come on possibly next week. And this is one of the main reasons why it's been pushed next week, because the new owners are also asking for more time, Sandra.
All right, thank you very much, George Biafe. So that's the news now. The takeover is not going to take place as expected. It's supposed to be tomorrow. And so it also means that utility tariff might not go up as planned. To other stories now, the United Nations Office for Project Services has committed $5 billion to construct over 100,000 affordable houses in the country through an agreement with the government of Ghana, according to Deputy Minister for Works and Housing, Frida Prempeh. The project, expected to roll out by the first quarter of the year, is in line with government's vision of addressing the growing housing deficit.
The United Nations Office for Project Services is fully funding the $5 billion project, with the government of Ghana only providing land. According to the Deputy Minister for Works and Housing, Madam Frida Prempeh, they are hopeful to roll out the project by the first quarter of the year.
We are looking at other avenues where we can solicit for support to help us bridge the housing deficit gap. UNOPS have come in to support us with a whopping sum of $5 billion. We're going to roll out the first tranche of over 100,000 units after the sword cutting for the project. Government is not going to commit any resources to this particular project. It's going to be funded through an SPV with UNOPS. So it's heartwarming to have such a project with the UN. So we are hoping that when we do the groundbreaking or the sword cutting, hopefully first quarter of this year, we'll start rolling. We are in the process of finalizing the contractors who are going to work with the UNOPS project.
The Deputy Minister further noted the project will be spread across all 16 regions.
Some of the main challenges that investors usually face is with land acquisition and also funding and return on investment and all that. So the ministry has taken it upon ourselves to acquire land banks across the country. We want to put up buildings not only in the regional capitals. Then we have 16 regions. We don't have 10 anymore. So even with the UNOPS project, we are looking at 16 regions. We are looking at the metropolitan, municipal and district assemblies as well. We want to reach out to every community.
The project is expected not only to help address the bloating housing deficit of about 2 million, but also create job opportunities. Prospective buyers can register online to secure an apartment. For Joy Business, Sheila Tamaklo.
Bank of Ghana and governments are gearing up to offload their shares in the Agricultural Development Bank. Let's go for the details plus other local stories right now.
Bank of Ghana and governments are gearing up to offload their shares in the Agricultural Development Bank, ADB, in 3 years to the public. Government, together with the central bank, control nearly 90% of the bank shares, affecting trading on the BIRS. Former CEO of the Ghana National Petroleum Commission, Alexander Mould, has rejected reports of his involvement in gas price fixing in the ENI Sankofa Ginyame project. Earlier this week, the statesmanonline.com reported that during his time as CEO of GNPC, Alexander Mould signed a shady contract with ENI, which resulted in almost doubling the price set by the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, PURC, for GNPC to sell gas to power stations. But Mr. Mould, in a statement, has described the report as maliciously misconstrued. Government has taken delivery of a $70 million power generation equipment from the Hungarian government to aid the construction of 400 megawatts bridge power project in Tema. When completed, the project is expected to provide a significant portion of the country's generating capacity with more than 400 megawatts of efficient combined cycle power.
Let's do other stories. An economist with Data Bank Group, Kwesi Boti, has indicated that lending rates in the country will remain high if infrastructural problems in the economy are not fixed. His comment comes on the back of a reduction in the policy rate from 17 to 16% by the Bank of Ghana. Kwesi Boti was interacting with Philip Namfuri in a yet-to-be-aired episode of PM Express.
initiatives shouldn't be brought for the sake of bringing them. You don't do digital address for the sake of it. You do it and follow it through. I mean, how many of our banks have actually requested us to submit our digital addresses? Yeah. How many of us have even submitted, and which bank decide that I'm blocking your account because you haven't submitted this? I mean, if those things are strict enough, you get people to comply to even the reforms you are putting in place, and it reduces the risk. In Ghana, there is a credit reference bureau, or I mean, where you are supposed to go and log all your clients you've given loans to, so that anyone who, if they go to a bank B applying for loan, you can just go there and see the person's credit record. Question, do banks even submit it? One, do other banks even rely on that information? Because, or to what extent do we ensure compliance to these things? It is when these ones are in place, and I just search one individual, and then I find out, okay, he took loan from bank A, bank B, bank C. It was a 2-year loan. He paid in 6 months. It was a 5-year loan. He paid in 3 months. Or it was a 1-year loan. It took him 5 years to pay. Then I'm able to adequately assess your credit risk, and that is what will bring down the rate overall. But if those things are not available, yes, policy rate will come down, but then we will not see a commensurate decrease in a market rate because of these structural issues.
Catch PM Express at 9 p.m. tonight for the full interview with Philip Nanfuri. Thanks so much for your time on Business Tonight. My name is Sandra Essenamapeno. Let's do more business same time tomorrow.